Good evening, everybody. I'm here with Mr. Steve Trahosky. Steve is a lifelong musician, lover of music, lover of community, lover of people, and also a manager of City Gallery in Erie, PA. Steve, how are you today?
I'm great, Mo. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Good. So, thanks for having me. Thanks for your time. I know you're a busy guy with all the things you do, but you always take time for community. Just start off, tell me about that. Why is it always important for you to do things like that?
I guess that it's always been important to me since a young age to do as much for community as I could, because I realized that we lived in a city where so many great people volunteered to make so many great events happen. And as I kind of grew into going out and about and seeing how those events worked, and then eventually working at a lot of those events, I got to meet a lot of really amazing people, and I found out that they were like putting their time in, and that these people weren't like on this big business that they got paid for. Right. That people were putting their time in, that they were cooking in their own kitchens and making food and just doing incredible things. So it was something that I realized was important. And then as my life unfolded here, and I went through any trials and tribulations or highs or lows, I found that the community was always an incredible support to me. And it's just, I feel very indebted to that support, to that love, to that generosity, very indebted and very grateful. Right.
So I know most people, a lot of people know you for your music. You want to talk about when you got into music, how you got into it?
Man, I guess I grew up in a time where music was something that we didn't have on phones, or you didn't have. We had accessibility through the radio, but the radio was something that was very prominent in my household. We had a very big household.
Okay.
I had a lot of brothers, a lot of sisters, and a brother, and we had the big. The big stereo, the record player.
Right, everything in it.
So, getting up in the morning, getting ready for school, it just, the news was there, it was 10 minutes, they gave you what you needed to know. Right. Then the music was there, broke everything down, and it was just something about that, that world that I was drawn into. And then I was, came up in like the 70s and 80s into the 90s. So for me, I watched it come over into the world of video, television. And so it was just, I guess it's just like many people, it just overtook me. I love the sounds, I loved the show, I loved all styles and genres. Pop music, of course, MTV coming up, it was something that we just all shared so deeply. Right. And that's it. I had some musicians in my family, and from there it just seemed like the one place that I found an outlet for my unique thoughts and presentation.
Okay. So I know you believe in creativity, originality, things like that, expression. Want to talk about some of those philosophies or thoughts you have about music?
I think that is a very, very common saying that every child is an artist, but very few adults are. And I think it just goes back to that imagination is the one thing I feel like that is truly ours. I've worked in the gallery, and for a month I remember walking in here, and I had this extraordinary artist in here, and he was such a fine artist that every detail was just, people were flabbergasted at the realism of this. And so was I, and I still am, and I'm very in awe of the way that this artist works. But after a month of living with it every day, I started to miss imagination. I started to miss flair. I started to miss the interpretation of how people saw the world, or what world they escaped to, or just they wanted to create something beautiful because they just felt that way in the moment. And kids did that. And that's why I always thought walking into a kids' art show was the best art show in the world. And I still do. I still think they're the best art shows in the world, you know? And I think that because I think that they just are uninhibited.
Right.
You know? And I think that the best art is the art that comes from you. I think that you can never be your heroes, and your heroes can never be you, you know? And I believe that. I believe that you can just be influenced by that, but you have to stand on your own, you know?
Right.
So
what is music, you think about what it's taught you, about the world, about people, what is it about you, about yourself, what is something that's taught you?
I think music's taught me more than anything that I could tell my story, no matter how obscure or ridiculous in the moment it is. I wrote an entire, funeral service for a beagle that I lost last year who was 14, and I wrote it and had a nice little gathering here and played the music, and it was great. And then I forgot about it, and a friend of mine called me up and he said, "Hey man, did you ever listen to that music you played for the Beagle?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, it's really pretty good. Right. And I think we should pull it out." And we did, and we started a project called Saturn to Brazil with it. And I think the coolest thing about music is the path that it takes you to. But I also think that I've met some of my truest friends that aren't musicians through their love for music. And I think you know what I mean by that. There's people that you look up and you see at multiple shows, and there's an energy that they give you, and you realize that there's this very genuine, true energy that happens between people when you perform music live for people, and it's very special. And how that moves a person is very deep. And I love getting those calls 20 years later now, 25 years later, 30 years later, that said, you moved us so deep, you played my brother's benefit, you played our wedding, and we'll never forget it, and I think just being part of so many beautiful moments in people's lives is so special to me. And it's so important that we do the best we can at those events and those great gatherings, and just the people, the energy, the vibe, the people, whatever genre I'm playing, I don't care. Just so the moment's right.
So here, I'm here at City Gallery. You and your wife put this together. So now you're bringing in art and all different types of other art along with your music. What was the vision behind the whole thought of the place? How did it start? What was the vision?
Well, Artler Studio was the vision for all this, and that was Lena's vision. But we started out, we used to do what we called art parties. We would Lena and I would actually go to people's homes, and I would play music, and Lena would bring art, and people would have gatherings, and we would sell art and play music and get paid, and that's how we were making a living for a while. Like, it was kind of very gypsy, like cultural gypsies in a way, and we were raising kids. And we got the opportunity to move into a small space that a friend of ours was leaving, and it felt right at the time. We had looked at a couple other spaces because we were thinking about it, and it was a good start off point. And then the space next door from the building moved out, and we expanded within a year. And then the next thing I know, we just started having conversations, and it seems like the conversations that Lena and I have were just forming. We would say something, and the next thing I know, it was happening. And I always felt that energy with her, though. Although it's interesting when you work and live together, it can be, and you're both so creative. You have to learn how to hear no immediately, and be okay with it, And because there's always a bigger vision. I'm impulsive, where she sees a spectrum. Um, I'm the bass player, you know. I want to lay it down right there. I want to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's more like a piano player. She sees the whole thing.
Right, right.
And so I do my best to follow that. And I try not to go too far off, but I do. She forgives me most of the time. And I think that with those two, with that vision and the vibe and the communal support and effort, I think we found our way into a niche that was kind of organically created. I can't explain that. I took a marketing class in college in my much later years when I went back and got my degree at 36, and I took a marketing class in Gen Ed, and this great old marketer, he was a guy in business, savvy guy, and he came in and he said, "This is what you got to do. Change your die. All the business things you threw out." He said, "There's one thing that'll save you all the time, and the one thing that's so unpredictable in any business, and that's the uniqueness factor. The uniqueness factor can carry you very far. Having your own thing, having that one thing that's just a little bit different, and that comes from trusting in you. You look around, you copy a bit from your mentor before you, your hero before you, and you see how that foundation's built, and then you start trusting
Doing your own
your
thing.
idea, right?
Yeah. So why the need for a place like City Gallery in a city? Because one of the things I see you doing that I admire is you pay tribute to all cultures here. That's one thing I do admire about what you and your wife do here. You cover the spectrum when it comes to culture. Why?
I think art is a language, and when you have a language that, like art or music, that crosses barriers of the vocally, speaking to each other.
Right.
You and I could show up and play Mustang Sally with a guy from France that doesn't talk English, but hey, man, we start playing and we're into the tune, right?
Right.
And we don't need to know how that dialects between each other, because we have that means, art, creativity, that thing that crosses those barriers. So art, if does that on its own, and I think if you try to stifle it, it almost feels, or censor it, it almost feels like, you can't. There's no language. There's no. There's nothing to compare art to. If I had nothing in here but 20 photographs of the Boston store, or 500 photographs of the Boston store, after a while, we wouldn't grow in any form spiritually or mentally. All this, every piece in here evokes a different story, evokes a different feeling, evokes a different moment in time, even. Different angle, the different way the sunlight hit those buildings, what time of day did it happen, what year did 11th and State look like that?
Right.
Why did that stick in your memory? Did you fall in love there? Did you step off a curb and break your heel?
Right,
did
right.
you,
Brings you back to
have
something.
a great New Year's Eve party? But all these things, they mean something to people. And again, everybody has a different meaning and a different way to find their way into that piece, And so I think that's important. I also think it's important because we live in the world together.
Right.
With these human beings. And culture is a wonderful thing to share. I've learned so much from so many different cultures. I've enjoyed so much from so many different cultures. It's great when they come here and share anything. I think it's important because it breaks down ignorance and fear.
Right.
Answers questions. And again, it allows us to to be part of what I believe that our civilization really is supposed to be part of. I think a lot of the other stuff we just throw in to get through the day.
Right, right,
You know?
right,
But culture, that's something that never clutters up time. You know?
right, right. Steve, if people want to visit, before we wrap up, they want to visit our City Gallery, can you tell us the address?
Yeah.
Contact.
We are at City Gallery at 1503 State Street. We are in the PACA building. We're part of the PACA building, which has 50 housed artists in it, full theater, everything. And you can contact us at City Gallery LLC at gmail.com, or we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram under City Gallery, Erie, Pennsylvania. So yeah, please look us up and come down and see us. We have gallery nights, we have art openings, we have all kinds of great events coming up.
Right. What if somebody wants to book you musically? How do they do that?
You can just hit me up at Steve Trahosky on Facebook, Stephen Trahosky on Facebook. You can hit me up at STEPHTRO, Steph Tro, at gmail.com, and you can book anything you need.
Right. Anything else you want to share, Steve, before we wrap up?
Just thanks, Mo. It's always great to talk to you. We've known each other for a very long time. You're the same. I love what you do for the community. I love what you do for the entertainment industry here. I've also loved what you've done for culture here. I've loved what you've done for the city. I love that you engage people in hard questions and hard truths, because I think it's a true sign of somebody that really wants to see people come together to get things done. So appreciate your time.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.